Hello, hello, hello. Holy shit. When it rains, it pours, motherfuckers. For those of you that do not know, I'm sure most of you do, there was BMYRT news about an hour and a half ago where the judge has dismissed the lawsuit without prejudice based on UMB being being the improper party to file the lawsuit because they were not properly made trustee back in 2020. The good news, if there is any good news, is that I'm told this was pretty much expected by the parties. I didn't know that at the time, a month ago, but that's what I'm told. I'm also told that they're pretty confident, or very confident, they'll be able to refile it with UMB as the trustee, pending them maybe getting DTC to say that current BMYRT holders, as of today, greater than 50% support the change to trustee to UMB. And then once it's refiled, this is already said so in today's ruling, it picks up right where it left off. So there's no redoing the last 4 years. The part that's unknown is how long this process takes and how long this will add. Does it add 3 months, 6 months, a year? Your guess is as good as mine. One guy I know that's pretty well versed with this kind of stuff thinks this creates a window for settlement talks for BMY. But they'll probably offer like 50 cents or something. So I wouldn't expect there to be much progress with settlement talks. And finally, the market speaks loudest. The bid ask on the CVR at Cowen was 220 by 240 2 days ago. And right now it's 175 by 225. Yeah, 175 by 225. That's funded, of course. I'm always quoting funded CVRs. So it's down a little bit. Use the midpoint. It's $2 versus 230. You would expect it to be down a little bit on the ruling, but it's hardly catastrophic, or else it would be down a lot of bit. So happy to take any questions on BMYRT, but yeah, wow. I guess the Vegas trip's never happening for anything. But why are we here? Well, first of all, I wonder if our friend from Europe, Keynesian Short, if Keynesian Short's with us today. Keynesian, are you here? I wish, I've been doing this for like 4 years. You'd think I'd be able to see the list of the participants in my own YouTube. I'm so unprofessional that I have no idea how to, I guess it won't tell me who's watching, who's here or not. Keynesian, if you're here, I'd love to say hi, have a chat with you. But if not, we will move on to the topic at hand, which is Target Hospitality. And what the hell is going on with Target Hospitality? So when I did my YouTube on Friday, Glenn, I did my YouTube on Friday. It's interesting. I thought definitively, I didn't say if the 13D comes Friday night. I said when the 13D comes Friday night. And lo and behold, there was no 13D Friday night. There's no 13D Monday morning. It's very unlikely there'll be a 13D Monday afternoon. So I spent a large portion of my weekend talking to lawyers, or trying to talk to lawyers. So much for me just trying to have, theses here. I wanted to speak to security lawyers and figure out all the ins and outs of 13Ds and what the reasons or ramifications could be for why TDR has not filed an amended 13D. I will tell you this. I have gotten a unanimous response from the lawyers I spoke to. I think as of now, I've spoken to either me or a friend has spoken to 4 different lawyers, all security lawyers of one fourth or another. And they have all said, by unanimous consent, that TDR would have had to file a 13D if they had withdrawn their bid, or if there's been a material change to their bid, including the process ending. If they didn't, now this is not what they've all said, but they've all said some element of this. If they did not file the 13D, they either just delinquent and they're going to pay a small fine. So it's not a very large penalty for TDR. Why would they be delinquent? Could it be that they just forgot? The odds of that are virtually zero. Just so you have a heads up, I emailed the company yesterday morning at like 8 in the morning. And I emailed the general counsel and I emailed investor relations, and I pointed out the lack of 13D, and I basically implored them. I sent a letter to the board, and I implored them to come to an agreement with TDR. But that's not the point of why I'm telling you this. I'm telling you this because the company, if they hadn't been aware that the 13D was not filed, they were aware as of yesterday early in the morning. So if TDR just whoopsied, forgot to file a 13D that takes about 20 minutes to file with 2 sentences in it, they would have filed it this morning, and there is no 13D. So what's the second reason why they wouldn't have filed the 13D? Well, the second reason why they wouldn't file the 13D is that they have not changed their plans, and there's no material change to their previous 13D. Now, what does that mean? Okay, this is where I have not gotten good answers, to be clear. Okay, if they still were interested in acquiring the company, but they want to pay less than 1080, would they have to file a 13D? If they still wanted to acquire the company and pay more than 1080, would they file amended 13D? Well, we know from previous precedents that you do not have to update your 13D every time you change the price of your indication of interest to the special committee. We've seen this as recently as RCM. With RCM, New Mountain, I can't remember who won, New Mountain or Koi Koi. Is it Koi Koi? Whichever one lost of the 30% holder in RCM, that lowered their bid to $13.25. Before that process ended, they raised the bid from $13.25 to $14.05, I think, and there was no amended 13D filed when they amended it to $14.05. Never happened. So you don't have to file every single time you go back and forth with the bid ask with a sponsor. That said, the word that the SEC uses is a material change. So let's say you want to be a skeptic and TDR is still interested in acquiring Target, but they want to pay $5 a share. If they want to pay $5 a share, would they have to amend the 13D? Or if they want to pay 1 cent, right? To be as extreme as you want to be. They want to buy it at 1 penny. Clearly, reasonable minds would think that that is a material change from the previous 13D. But why haven't they amended it? So I believe that what's happening here is the following. There's 2 wrinkles in it, but the main path, I think, is this. I think that I'm taking the company at its word, what was said in the press release. After Dilly got lost, all third parties, or most third parties, went away. There might have been at least 1 third party left up until the end in September. But there was never, as it said, any formal offer made. That doesn't mean anything, by the way. There's no formal offer until you're ready to put pen to paper. So it's indications of interest, etc., all non-binding. But someone might have been interested in buying the company at whatever price. But whatever, nothing transpired at whatever price TDR would have sold their stake at. Because TDR has the final and only say in whether the company gets sold to a third party. They're the entire vote. Special committee or no special committee. Okay? So there were no formal offers, and TDR, quote, never reaffirmed their 1080. By the way, that's a whole other bucket. In 2021, TDR withdrew their $1.50 bid. And the same day they filed it. It was actually the next day. They withdrew it on March 29th. And on March 30th, 2021, the company reported earnings, and in that press release disclosed that TDR had withdrawn their bid. And then the same day, within an hour later, TDR issued a 13D saying they had withdrawn the bid. Okay. In this case, this bid has not been withdrawn. It has not been reaffirmed, whatever the fuck that means. Okay. Now, the intent of that is saying TDR no longer wants to pay 1080. Okay. I'll give you that. It's less, they're at less than 1080 today. Okay. What I think has happened was this. I think that TDR offered to pay $9.50 to $10. Okay. The stock was trading $9.40 to $10, really $9.50 to $10 for weeks. The special committee and the board said, we can't take a no premium a bid from last sale, let alone it's only like, that would only be like a 15% or 12% premium from before TDR made the initial offer. They lost daily, I gotcha. But I'm just telling you what the optics look like. And finally, they might not even get the majority minority vote. You have two 5% shareholders, and they might be pissed off that there's a no premium or 12, 10% premium acquisition taking place here in a squeeze out. So the board said to TDR, you have to come up to your 1080 or maybe even higher, or else there'll be no deal. And TDR said, no, we're at 950 to 10. And the board said, we're going to kill this process, tomorrow if you don't come up. And TDR said, do whatever you got to do. And then they blow up the stock. And they put very strange language in the blow up press release, right? We know that there was other proposals made that were cash proposals. The language is very clear. It says other proposals that the special committee and the financial advisors did not deem superior to the company's standalone plans for unaffiliated holders. Each of those words tells you what that sentence means, okay, as a combination, okay? If they were thinking about merging with a third party, then TDR would have the same benefit or harm as we would. There is no portfolio company that TDR has that they can merge with this. So it would have to be I'm just telling you what other options could be, other proposals. If it was a merger with another company, unaffiliated holders, you wouldn't have to say that. You would just say for the company's shareholders, because TDR is in the same boat as us, okay? You then also have the fact that the financial advisors had to review it. If there's no other proposal, financial advisors do not have to review anything. You would just say TDR did not reaffirm the 1080 and there were no alternative proposals advanced, period. But finally, of course, the biggest issue is the final sentence, that we have no idea what TDR or Arrow or others will do regarding an acquisition of the company in the future. Can't get more clear than that. I'm not talking about tender offers. I'm not talking about hostile board changes, just whether or not TDR, Arrow, or a third party comes back, and when they come back, and how they might come back. By the way, the whole TDR and Arrow thing is so strange. They're the same company. It's the same 65% holder. Why they feel the need to tell us TDR and Arrow and not just Arrow or not just TDR, I have no idea. Okay. I don't know what the hint is there or what that's all about. Okay. So they said, go do it. Go blow the stock up. So they blew the stock up. It went to 750. Okay. Now what happens? It's Wednesday. On Thursday, you go back to the company and their advisors and you say, hey, the stock's 750. We offer 975. That's looking pretty attractive now. What do you think about $10? We'll bump it 25 cents. $10 versus 750. It's a 33% premium to unaffected of today break. The special committee meets. By the way, I know they disbanded the special committee. They could re-ban the special committee in 5 minutes. It means absolutely nothing. The disbanding of the special committee. They get a new proposal. There's a new special committee. Very quick to do, okay? And they don't have to press release a new special committee. There was a special committee in 2023 from July to November. We have no idea what that special committee was for. It's in the proxy, but it was there. There was no press release about a special committee. So you don't have to tell you that there's a special committee being formed. In fact, Nordstrom had a special committee for months before April, the third week in April, when they press released the 13D from the brothers, the sons. They had it for months. Anyway, so the special committee comes back, $10. Maybe they try to extract $10.25 out of them, and you get a deal. And who's harmed here? Special committee looks good. they extracted another 25 cents or 50 cents out of TDR. They don't look like they just took a no bid, a no premium deal. Now everybody couldn't be happier and more thrilled to get 10 or 10.25. Where if I told you were going to get 10 or 10.25 last week, you would have hung me, right? TDR is happy because they finally figured out a way to resolve this headache of theirs, which is taking this thing private or selling it to a third party. Now, the question you have to ask yourself is, have they approached the company yet with this line of thinking? Would they have done it by Thursday or by Friday or not? Certainly, you think they would have done it by the weekend. The reason why I ask you this is if the company told them to pound sand and the bid ask between what TDR is looking to pay and what the company is looking for is so wide, there's simply no logical conclusion why TDR would not file the amended 13D. They would just say they withdrew the offer and they don't know what their plans are for the future regarding potential deals with the company. It's exactly what they said in 2021. But instead, we're sitting here on day 5 and there's no amended 13D. Now, where it gets tricky here is I can't tell you what the time frame is, right? Does it take days? Does it take weeks? Is TDR waiting for PICOs to be renewed in mid-November? Is there information about the third bid that they both are waiting for before they make a conclusion here? Is there a time frame that they have to amend their 13D by if neither side is talking to each other? So let's say they agree right now to have a standstill for 2 months. Does TDR have to file a 13D or could they just sit on it because they're still interested in acquiring it at 1080 or around there? I have no idea the answer to these questions. One thing I could say that I feel very strongly about is the odds that they issue a 13D and do a tender directly to shareholders, bypassing the special committee, is virtually zero, okay? And this is the reason why. Whenever you see these 13D offers by people that are insiders, the Nordstrom family, Bally's, all the MLPs, Silver Lake and Endeavor, 100% of them in their letters say they will not move forward without a fully empowered special committee agreeing to the deal. Now, most of them also require a majority of a minority vote. Silver Lake didn't, and they're going to get sued for that. The MLPs don't have to because they're not C Corps, okay? But why do they do this, okay? It's pretty simple. The special committee and the majority shareholder all have material non-public information. They're never cleansed. I mean, you're allowed to insider buy when you're fully cleansed, I guess. But we're not talking about a complete takeover of a company, right? There's always going to be something that insiders know and the board members know that you and I don't know. And you're open to massive lawsuits if TDR can go to me, a YouTube schmuck, and say, hey, Matt, we want to buy all your stock from you at $9.50. Would you like to sell it to us? I don't have any of the information they have, and I'm not fully empowered to come up with what I think the fair value of this stock is. So they could rob me. For instance, they could know already that there is a third bid coming for the third contract, and they're 99% likely to get it. And of course, that's MNPI. They know more about the PICOS renewal than I do, right? They know more about everything than I do. But with a special committee, you cleanse yourself of all of that. So I would be completely shocked if what we're going to see is some 13D where they take the offer straight to shareholders, okay? The more likely outcome, if they can't come to an agreement with the board and things are toxic with the board, is they do have the right to throw out the entire board and put in 5 new independent directors and start all over again with 5 new independent directors. Again, I'm sure that it wasn't up to lawsuits too, but the Powell talking piece of shit. No wonder why the stock market's going down. Wonderful. And then there's the third option that's happening here, okay? That relates to a third party bid. Okay, why did this take until September, the third week of September? If after Dilly, all third parties kind of went away, certainly by August, third parties would have known whether they were serious or not, and they're anywhere close to the price that TDR wanted. I still think the best outcome for TDR is selling this to a third party. So the third possibility, which again is much less likely, I think, but it's still possible, is that a third party had an indication of interest at 1150, 11, 1050, 12, whatever. TDR would not match that to buy the rest of them they don't own. But they also weren't willing to sell their share at 1050, 11, 1150. And the special committee simply can't, the board can't vote for something that a 65% holder is going to vote no on, right? There's no way to empower the minority here. The majority has a vote when it's an arm's length transaction. So how does that work out, right? Maybe right now TDR is trying to buy time and playing chicken with a third party. Again, I don't think this is likely, but if that was more likely to be not, then I think the press release and all the facts here too would be more friendly with TDR and the company. Yeah, I don't find anything friendly about that press release from Target Hospitality towards TDR. And the lack of 13D today tells me that all is not all is not well in Kansas. All is not rotten in Denmark. You know what I'm talking about. So that's where I'm at. Only took 21 minutes. What am I drinking? This is a smoothie with whiskey in it. Oh, I didn't tell you guys the best part. I had a dream this weekend. Last night, I dreamt about Shark Biotech, at Shark Biotech, which is really a scary proposition. And I kid you not, I dreamt that he was taking an online exam, a course, to be able to sell BridgeBio's ATTR-CM drug to the market. So he was going to become a rep of BridgeBio, but he had to take an online course to be trained in ATTR cardiomyopathy, however you say that word. And he was going to be a salesperson for BridgeBio. If that's not fucked up, I've never even seen what Shark Biotech looks like. I just know he's an Orthodox Jew, so I guess I dreamt Orthodox Jew. But if that's not the most messed up dream you've ever heard in your life, when I was a kid and through most of my 20s, I used to have concentration camp, like Nazi dreams, the worst shit ever. I had to stop watching Holocaust and World War II movies because I'd have nightmares about them all the time, right? This is kind of up there. He was fully clothed, though. I swear to God this happened. It's one of those times when you wake up and you remember the dream and you have to keep telling yourself the dream over and over again so that you remember it in the morning. And I did. I remembered it in the morning. Okay. That wasn't creepy. That probably would be the most creepy thing I've ever said on this YouTube channel. Did I talk to Gary? You know, I was planning on exposing our friend Keynesian on this YouTube. It's interesting, okay? So for those of you that weren't here on Friday, you should absolutely watch the Friday YouTube. There's way more people on it now than there was on Friday. On Friday, the same gentleman from Wednesday, Keynesian Short, his name wasn't Keynesian Short on Wednesday. He changed it after I was very skeptical about all the things he was saying about Target Hospitality. On Friday, he asked me on this channel whether or not I've spoken to TDR Capital or I know anybody that's spoken to them. And have I spoken to Gary? I then Googled, while I was on the YouTube, TDR Capital's principals. And Gary is a former board member of Target Hospitality and a principal at TDR Capital. I then asked him on this channel what Gary told him about the situation. And he went silent. Okay. So that freaked me out. Because he's been very negative about Target and about this process since Wednesday. So I assumed Gary told him bad news about what's going to happen. He also mentioned on Wednesday that he had a phone call with the company coming up that day. And he wanted to know if I've spoken to the company. Okay. I'll get to that in a minute, why I don't do phone calls with companies. Because they're full of shit. So I'm not going to learn anything from the company. That's the answer. Finally, on Wednesday, he pitched a stock idea, a European stock idea, okay? and said he really likes it. He thinks it's worth whatever, 600 or 700 pence or something. He also spelt behavior the way British people spell behavior. So I was freaked out. He's clearly European. He definitely could have connections to TDR and this private equity firm. There's no good reason why he'd go on YouTube and troll me about it if he did have information from TDR. But it definitely freaked the shit out of me on Friday, okay? And my friends that were on here. So I was pretty sure that he found this YouTube channel from Value Investors Club. I was almost certain he doesn't follow me on Twitter. And I posted links to Target Hospitality YouTubes on Value Investors Club. That doesn't really help me, right? How am I supposed to? Value Investors Club is anonymous. So I told all this to my friend, and he then tried to figure out who this guy is on Value Investors Club because he was freaked out that this guy has information, that's negative. Sure enough, he cross-referenced the European idea that he pitched me and the message board post on Target Hospitality, and we came up with a 99.9% chance we know who this is, which is pretty incredible. I believe he posted an actual original idea of the European idea that he pitched me, but he only commented it in the Vic thread for Target Hospitality. But this is really where it gets great. And I hope you're on here, Keynesian Short, because chef's kiss to you, my friend. He's only posted 3 times in that Target Hospitality thread. 3 times, okay? The first post is from 2 threads ago. So the idea has been posted more than once. And then that post, that message board idea, the author exited out of it in like July of last year. And he replied like question mark, kind of like, what the fuck you doing, man? I think the stock went down a lot that day when he exited. The only other 2 posts he has on the final thread of Target Hospitality were from the fall of last year. And both times he posted, anybody know what's going on? Anybody know what's going on with the stock? Why is it moving? I kid you not. There's no added benefit to the posts. There's no value add. There's no I talked to Gary. There's, can somebody hold my hand and tell me why the stock's going down? Okay. Finally, in another thread, he says he used to work in private equity in his former life on Vic. Now, look, he might have worked for TDR. He might have inside information here, okay? It's definitely possible he has inside information. He decided to go on a YouTube channel, say, I spoke to Gary. Gary told me this is a piece of shit, that their 13D guy is in the Caribbean this week. When the Caribbean is over, the 13D guy is going to file, and then they're going to declare bankruptcy. That's definitely possible. What's also possible is that our friend Keynesian Short isn't involved with this anymore or blew all out of it on Wednesday. He's been harmed by the stock over the last year and a half. He's bitter, and he decided to say something about TDR and Gary to get under my skin, which is super fucked up. It's even fucked up even if you've spoken to Gary. I mean, this is the equivalent of saying, I have inside information. You don't have inside information? Have you tried to get inside information? Mind you, TDR talking to people right now when they haven't filed a 13D is very much inside information. But, upon reflection with this, though, as I was talking to my friend, if my thesis is right, that TDR wants to tank the stock so that they can get it for $9.50 or $10 or $10.50, wouldn't Gary tell him terrible things about what's going on? Oh, man, this is a mess. Yep. Special committees are a real pain in the ass, and we just couldn't get it through. I mean, isn't that what he would say? He would want the stock to go down. So I'm not overly concerned about Gary. What European stock? You have to go look at the Wednesday YouTube I did. He talks about it in the comments. I do not remember the name of the stock. Yeah, his handle is Keynesian Short on here, and Keynesian Short. I'm not going to say what his handle is on Vic. Doesn't matter. You can figure it out. But I've been doing this for 25 years, and there are some pretty nasty people in this business. But mind you, I have an 80% position in this, 80% delta adjusted. Okay. I'm pretty sure Keynesian Short has never had an 18% position in his life, probably. So for him to come on here when I'm doing this for free, I'm never pumping, I'm never selling into my YouTubes. I do all this because it's intellectually fun for me to spout bullshit about talking to TDR Capital and principals there and trying to make me more anxious than I already am is just a really, really dick thing to do. And by the way, let's say he really did talk to Gary and TDR Capital. The coward went silent, right? Went silent. Couldn't even say, listen, I've said too much, which is hilarious, you know? So no, I have no sympathy or compassion for the man or woman behind Keynesian Short. I don't need more anxiety in my life, right? There's plenty of negative things you could say about this situation. There's plenty of negative things you could say about Target Hospitality. It trades at 4 times EBITDA. But let's keep it above board. Let's be honest, intellectually honest, and also factually honest when we're dealing with other people with lots of money and skin in the game, okay? It's not cool. Not cool. This is not a triple berry smoothie. This is a homemade smoothie. Triple berry is the main ingredient of the smoothie, though. I'll keep talking if you guys have any other thing you want to talk about. What would make me change my mind about this? I mean, I don't know what to expect over the next few months, right? We might get nothing until Picos is renewed. We might get nothing until we wake up one day about a third-party bid. Sorry, the third contract. But my gut tells me this gets resolved in the next 2 weeks. I thought we had a 10% chance we woke up this morning to a deal. This is pretty unprecedented, okay? If you go back over the last 10 or 15 years, I can't find, again, I could be wrong, a situation where a 50+% owner of a company bid for it publicly and then didn't consummate the deal. In fact, the only time I could come up with this was when Target Hospitality did this back in 2021 with TDR Capital. Usually when the ball gets rolling with a squeeze out, the squeeze out happens. Okay. So, you know, yeah. Can you talk about your process for sourcing new ideas? Sure. I look for the biggest piece of shit companies on the face of the planet. I then analyze them to make sure I truly have the biggest, shittiest ones that have ever existed. I then wait for them to get involved in some sort of deal process where either there's an article that comes out that says they're exploring strategic alternatives, or they've PR strategic alternatives, or 13Ds come out and says that they're just acquiring the majority of the minority. I then look for what is the least amount of upside if a deal gets done and like max downside if a deal breaks. And I put my whole portfolio into it. That's my general sourcing. It's changed over the years, but that's where I am. That's where I am today. The truth is that I don't have any really smart way that I source. I do look at every single strategic process. Okay, my favorite thing to do is strategic alternatives. The second thing I do is biotech, and that I do very little of readouts, of phase 3 readouts, et cetera. It's mostly PDUFAs, major amendments for PDUFAs, things like that. And then sometimes I'm just stuck in shitty companies for years, like Magnachip, right? I'm still in Amplify, AMPY. I've owned it for years. There's no good reason why I own these stocks. You know, they're just so cheap. So, Dan, did you get on late? Wait till you find out about my dream. He knows about the dream. I tagged him on Twitter, but he doesn't know what the dream is yet. I'm going to make you, Dan, have to rewatch this whole thing to find out what I dreamt about. It's good, I promise. Did you know I was a medical sales rep? Oh, he did here. Do you know I was a medical sales rep in the late 90s? I did not know that, Dan. So in the late 90s, you were like 50? That sounds about right. So let's say listen, if we get a 13D this week, a month from now, and it says we're withdrawing our offer and we remain open to whatever things in the future. Yes, the stock will go down. I don't know how much it will go down. It will go down. I wouldn't think more below 7 or 725, but it definitely could, right? And then you're left with, what do we have here? What is this company? Okay. And I talked about this in the last 2 YouTube, so I won't go crazy with it, but you have a steady stream of catalyst over the next 3 months, hopefully, to get the stock over $10 anyway, right? And 65% holder has to sell. They have to sell. So I just remain very enthused about the idea. I do. And I'm not, listen, I sell stocks. I use AQN as an example. I sold that entire position out, AQN, the day they announced the result of the renewable sale and the dividend cut, right? I do it all the time with things that have broken processes. I just don't feel that way here. In fact, I bought more the last few days. Here's something no one asked me. What do I think it should be trading at today? I think it should be trading between 825 and 850 right now. That to me seems like the right skew for all that we know that's going on. Maybe closer to 850. The way I approach that is I think a deal happens at $10 or higher. Oh, I want to say something else too. I think this is really, really important. I've been saying for a year or 6 months that every dollar in deal price doesn't matter to TDR because it's just $35 million. And this is a $1 billion deal. So I'm perplexed. I'm being hypocritical now, saying that they'd be fighting over 975 versus 1075 versus, whatever. Why would this little amount of money matter? I think I looked at it wrong. The real deal is for the 35%. They own the 65%, and they're going to own it whether they take it private or not. They own it and they control it. So the 35% at 10 is a $350 million transaction. So, 35 million in 350 million is 10% of the deal price. 10% is not nothing. So I think that was my error. If there was many errors here, that would be the biggest error, was that it's a rounding error, whether it's 950, 1050, or 1150. This isn't a $100 billion company buying out the minority. This is a very rational, savvy shark private equity firm. And they have to put it in a new fund and a continuation fund if they do trade it. So I wouldn't minimize the difference between 975 and 1075. Also, while this has been tremendously painful for me and for a lot of you, this isn't painful for TDR. They don't care if the stock goes to 750, then it gets sold next week for 1050. They don't own options. They don't have October options. So none of this bothers them. They have all the cards. They see all the cards. If we're in a poker game, right, they see every card on the table and all 5 cards that have already been flopped. What do we see? We see maybe our own 2 cards. We have no idea what all the other cards are showing, and they haven't even turned the flop out yet. So, we're blind, and they are completely wide open. Just keep that in mind. Oh, and sorry, also very important. If very bad news was looming, Pecos was going to be canceled, there's no rational reason for them not to file a 13D and withdraw the bid. There's no rational reason for them not to be friendly in the press release, right? And there's no rational reason for the company to reiterate guidance when there's 6 weeks of Pecos in it, post-renewal. Any idea how their fundraising is going? Are they currently raising a new fund? They raised a fund last year They have plenty of money. There's no money issues. It's a big deal though for them, $1 billion. But they're going to lever it up. So they probably borrow 400 million, maybe even 500 million. So they need like 500 million in equity. And they could use their entire position to roll, by the way. I mean, yeah, let's take a step back for a second, guys. If they pay $10 for this, they need $350 million. At 165 million of EBITDA, they need a tiny bit over 2 turns of leverage to take out the entire minority. They then need a revolver, which they easily could have, of 150 million to fund any growth CapEx that comes their way. They don't have to put in one more dollar. And they'll go from 65% to 100% at a little bit over 2 times levered. And my math last time was wrong. I know I was getting a lot of shit from about what the free cash flow is next year. I actually think the free cash flow is 125 million. You get 165 of EBITDA, okay? You have 20 million of maintenance CapEx at most, okay? You have an 80 or 70 million DNA shield, and then you use the 28% corporate tax rate. And if you do all that, what you also do is I looked at what the taxes were. I looked at what their actual taxes were for the first half of 2024. I doubled it, and I took out a little bit because they're going to have much less EBITDA next year than this year, 40 million less. So I took out 20% of the taxes. So I actually know what their actual tax rate is with their DNA shield. You get to about 125 million of free cash flow. You know, that means they can pay off their goddamn debt that they took to buy out the minority in under 3 years and go to 100% ownership again with no leverage on the balance sheet. You know, you're still left with all the questions. Is the contract, worth 10 years, 5 years, 1 year? Can they get new business? What's the oil and gas business worth? My buddy did look up, and I can't believe I didn't look at this, what the gross rental assets are worth pre any depreciation. And it's about 750 million, I think. So there's currently $7.50 a share in gross rental assets that is not adjusted for inflation. For inflation, they're worth way more than 750. Now you can start arguing about whether or not there is a lifeline, a life period for these assets. But I don't know, man. They said on the call last time that Dilly, which is 12 years old, the assets are like new because they spend the 20 million of maintenance capex every year on this stuff. They're just boxes. So if the PP&E is worth 750 million, that's what it's trading at right now. Literally 775 million. So I don't know, your margin of safety is probably better than we thought. Is it $5 if they lose Picos, $6? Not day one. Day one maybe goes to $4. I'm so sad Keynesian's not on here. I mean, I guess he's a European, which is even weirder because isn't it really late there right now? Maybe he lives in America, but he's European. I don't know. I would like to say that was some really good detective work. I did give my friend all the inputs, but he figured it out. I really didn't care that much. The behavior, when I saw how he spelled behavior, I was super, super worried. When you say that just goes to the too hard pile, well, Sean, like TDR, I am very much too pregnant here. Okay. I can't disclose my exact position size with options and common, whatever, but this would be very, very hard for me to unwind. But I also didn't have to add, right? And I added, so that I didn't have to do. I like too hard. Too hard to me is where it gets the most interesting. This is a super interesting situation. It just gets more interesting by the day, right? And to be clear, I am not doing a Monday morning quarterback kind of thing here. On Wednesday morning in pre-market, I said to all my friends, let's see what the 13D says. I said it on this YouTube channel, okay? So I expected a 13D to be filed. And then on Friday, I was certain it would come Friday afternoon. So Look, if they lose Picos and the stock's not, $3, it then becomes too hard. But I mean, then I won't sell either at $3 because then TDR really will have to do something at $5, right? But I'm going to lose all my money. I mean, it's that simple. So there's a lot of risk here on the Pico side. That's it. If you think Picos is renewed, I think the risk is pretty low here, actually. Are you tracking UAC utilization put out by CDC? Isn't CDC looking to reduce hosting UACs by linking UACs to family members? That might be a tough Picos will be renewed. I haven't been tracking that. I haven't. But they said as of earnings in August, it was going the exact way that it tracked the previous year. I would think if that was tracking poorly, I mean, wouldn't the stock have been much lower? I don't even know how to track that, honestly. I know that back in March it wasn't being utilized at all. But yeah, I don't know the answer to that question. If that's true, why would they have in August still been going forward with the third bid, right? If they're going forward with a third bid for unaccompanied minors, they're clearly not going to cancel the second contract that was just signed last year. If you're TDR, why not just wait till Picos is renewed? Too much to lose if you're the only bidder. Yes and no. If Picos is renewed, stock price goes up. I'm not so sure the special committee has the easiest path to take the 975 or 10 and 1025. Also, what happens if the third bid goes through in November? Well, then you definitely can't buy this at $10. So time works both ways for TDR. And remember, it's an annual renewal. So they're never going to get comfortable. Either they're going to get comfortable that this is going to be around for the next 4 to 5 years, or they're not going to be comfortable. It's as simple as that. If they're not comfortable, it's very hard for them to acquire this. And if you don't want to acquire this, why don't you just put the 13D out? Where's the 13D? And Glenn says you can't just wait on a 13D pending Picos. I don't see how that would be illegal, right? If they are not talking to the board anymore, and there's been a material change, which is there's no longer in negotiations or discussion with the special committee, and they do not want to own it at 1080 now or for the next 2 months, I mean, I think they're probably breaking security laws. In fact, they could do it. They could put it as a 13D. We are pulling our 1080 pending renewal of Picos and other contracts in the future. We might decide to bid again. To me, the company would not have put out that reaffirmed guidance if Picos was in trouble last week. But look, one black swan already happened with Dilly being canceled after 12 years. So could Picos be canceled in 5 weeks? It could. But why would they submit? The company did not lie that in August they said the government was soliciting proposals and they submitted a proposal a week earlier. And in fact, the CEO's exact words were, it could not be it's the exact opposite, which is when they were asked, do you think Picos is going to be canceled or is there any risk of Picos being canceled? They said, quote, it's the exact opposite, which is, of course, that they're trying to get a third bid with more utility and more capacity. I don't know. That's all I got. Could they all be lying to us? Yeah. I don't know how that helps TDR or helps Target Hospitality. The stock's going to blow up in 6 weeks. It's going to blow up in 6 weeks. I don't know what keeping the 13D does for TDR, except, create this uncertainty that they don't need either. I mean, poor Gary. He's probably gotten 25 phone calls this weekend from all you schmucks. He doesn't need this. And the poor 13D guy that works for TDR, he just said the Caribbean just trying to relax, blow off some steam. You guys want to know why they haven't filed the 13D yet? He'll be back soon. All right. I'm going to order lunch. At least the market's coming back a little bit. Bridge Bio is going to go to 0 probably. Doesn't matter. I love everybody. Maybe we'll get good news one day. Maybe not. Probably not. Take care. Bye. I already talked BMYRT. It's at the beginning, Larry. Go to the beginning.